What's up, guys, and welcome back for another EVE Online solo mining episode 94. Now, we're probably going to be trying to change the format of this series moving forward, being a little more in-depth with kind of my daily operations, not really necessarily making everything like long form or short form, but just kind of really showing what my day-to-day operations kind of look like. For today, we're doing I really want to Orca mine. I really want to do some low yield Orca drone mining, but before we can actually get to that, the fun side of things, we got to do some industry support mining. So right now I am out here on the actual industry alt, which is my second highest trained tune with like 90 million skill points, who is pretty much not just industry, just more recently has been trained into production, science, stuff like that for running jobs. We need to get to 8 million trit. I think we're at 6.9 right now. So we've got a few more, like basically this trip in the Mackinac, and then probably one more, and then we'll be kind of good to go to facilitate setting up some of these 30-day jobs that we've got moving around. But I figured we'll start this episode off by doing some Mackinac mining, getting this the trit that we need and everything, and then probably relax a little bit and do some Orca drone mining. That way the yield on that is not necessarily too dependent. We just kind of need to keep the industry stuff kind of moving forward a little bit, which I guess is a good talking point in terms of like the difference between mining strictly for profit. I mean, all mining is for profit, but like the difference between like mining things to get the most ISK per hour versus actually mining to support industry, which has a longer turnaround on ROI. I don't think I've ever actually covered that, but if you're ever been a part of like a mining or industry corp, or you're doing industry yourself manufacturing, then you'll know there are days where you need to go out and mine a bunch of pyro, which isn't necessarily the best ISK per hour thing to mine, but it's what you gotta do to facilitate whatever jobs. And that's gonna be true regardless across the board, regardless of what scale you're at too. Like even in nullsec doing capital, if you're part of a corporation doing capital ship construction, your task might not necessarily be the best ISK per hour you could be doing with your time, but you're a piece of that pipeline. So that's why this tune, I never really sucked the mining skills out of this tune, so I'm still trying to use as few characters as possible in my day-to-day, my gameplay loop and everything. So this tune is implanted. It has all skills to the research and the copying and the manufacturing, but I retained its mining skills so that it can just kind of come out here and do whatever, which is also interesting. I think that everybody who's into mining either needs to be like into PI or manufacturing or ratting or something supplemental. And the thing about industry is the research times can take so long and the manufacturing times can take so long that you never really have any downtime in terms of stuff to do. I mean, even for us, we're setting up 30-day jobs. These are jobs that we're not even going to see the product for like a month. But while that stuff is being manufactured, then we're still out here kind of looking at the next thing we're going to be doing and kind of mining. Right now we have BPCs. We're copying Squall right now to get ready to do invention into Deluge and Torrent. So I got like 2 days left on the copy job, so I'm gonna be ahead of the curve here. We won't be using this trit or any of these materials for any of that stuff, but once I actually get the other jobs I have kind of set up in place, then I'll be basically, while we're going through the invention process, we look at what we do if we're going to build the Delusion Torrent or whatever we're going to build next. We start mining towards that. So there's never ever any downtime in manufacturing Yeah, there's really long manufacturing processes and research processes, but as long as you kind of like, think a couple of steps ahead, you'll always kind of have stuff to do, which is starkly different than just strictly mining and selling ore. When you do that, you can essentially just go out and get the highest value, get the highest ISK per hour, and utilize your efficiency that way. And then you don't have to worry about, checking boxes for BPOs and stuff like that. So for me right now, I kind of do both a little bit. I'm doing a lot more industry and manufacturing than I used to in HiSec. Most of my industry was done in nullsec with the support of like PI and the materials and stuff out there. I don't know if I'm gonna end up back in nullsec. It would be nice to maybe go out there for like a month just to kind of, mess with the new mining sites. But right now there's no point in even like, there's no point in, looking into that yet, because a lot of people I know don't even have their new hub arrays, or they're not even sure what they're going to be doing right now. So we're just kind of moving forward. I am planning on starting PI here in HiSec, and we're going to be doing probably a series over that, a daily series over that, which is why this character is training custom code expertise, which if you're going to do HiSec PI, you definitely want custom code expertise 5. It reduces the Concord tax on the customs office. You're still going to pay high taxes because of just player corps and stuff, but this will allow us to do a little bit more in industry that doesn't require just materials from mining. We could start, building stuff that uses the planetary commodities, and also we'll be able to use the new ships and stuff and everything. The deluge probably. The squall we have right now is going to end up being consumed when we make our first deluge or torrent. I'm not sure which yet. It really kind of depends on our success rate on invention. But if you're interested in like kind of that industry kind of side of things, then there's a whole soul industry episode or series that I cover all that stuff. But in terms of the support mining and kind of what we do, as far as just mining in general, solo mining is kind of the place to be. So right now I'm using this my custom overview. I have a custom veld tab, which I essentially can just look at only the veld on field, which is here. Obviously it's a lot more dense than that. This character is sitting at the highest security you could possibly be in, a 1, so we don't have to worry about pirate strongholds. We don't have to worry about rats at all. So it's actually a really good idea to run drone mining in 1 security systems, because you don't have to worry about rats coming on grid and sucking in your drones and putting out combat drones and taking care of that, and then swapping back. You are limited on the available ores. We have like basically scordite, veldspar, and that's pretty much it. You can go down a little bit lower to like a 0.9, and you can get like pyro and things. Or you can go all the way down to like a 0.5, and you can get plag and pyro, scordite, and veldspar, which is what I normally mine in. I'm normally mining those 0.5s or 0.6s for that kind of thing. But I've been really kind of like just experimenting and kind of chilling in these really high security systems, and local is very very active. You got a lot of people coming in, you got a lot of people coming out, because this is actually technically considered a starter system. So you'll see a lot of people come here to do their career agent missions. There's also a lot of through traffic. We're not that far from Jita, so we do have a lot of people kind of moving through, in and out, and everything. But we're gonna try to get this run done, and then jump over to the other tune and do some Orca mining. But I was actually thinking about it the other day. Is a lot of what I see on the channel is talking about ganking and losing mining ships, and what appears on the surface to me to be like a high volume of these things happening, but which is weird for me, because I think I've lost 2 mining ships to PvP in my entire Eve career. One was a skiff that I was just impatient. I was coming out of null. I was just impatient. I'm going through a low sec system that had a known gate camp, and I was like, you know what? If we make it cool. If we don't, we don't. And I kind of just rolled the dice. Obviously, didn't make it. Wasn't too bent up on that. The other one was a retriever, which was like day 3 of me playing Eve, and I was going out in a retriever into nullsec, into like the crocite anomalies and stuff like that way back then, back in 2020 or something, like 4 years ago. And so I actually managed to mine a lot in nullsec before losing that retriever. But those are my only 2 mining ship losses across all the tunes I've ever played, across all the spaces that I've played. So for me, whenever I see people talking about being ganked and having like really high losses and stuff in high sec or null sec, for me it's kind of, there's a disconnect there because I don't have that same experience. It might be just because I've always been just kind of just spamming D-scan. I've also always been just kind of like really hyper aware of my surroundings and things like that. So, there's an open discussion, obviously. Let me know in the comments about your experiences. What are the circumstances around these, ship losses in high sec or wherever. I just know for me personally, it doesn't happen a whole lot. So I guess I can't really, when people ask me about how to avoid ganking and stuff, it's really hard to relate to that because I've always just played kind of paranoid-ish, which I don't know if that's I don't know if that's why I don't lose things. Like, I'm always like hyper aware. But the reason I'm bringing this up is because I thought about actually doing a complete episode where we just kind of stay out in space for a crazy long amount of time just to see how long it takes for somebody to aggress me or to bother me, which I thought about just taking like the Orca out and just staying out until we run out of heavy water or something. But I don't know, I really wanted to kind of explore that kind of thing. It just seems to me like when I read comments and stuff on the channel, it seems like people are just dealing with a lot of losses via PvP and ganking, which enlighten me. Let me know what the circumstances around that stuff is. Now, for me personally, I don't mine in low sec because pretty much everything that I would mine in low sec I could get in rare ores. Before that, I was in null sec pretty much exclusively. So, and I wasn't really doing industry. So, I think maybe if we weren't, if I was dipping more into like low sec, I would be probably seeing a lot more losses. But also, I'd probably be expecting it too, right? If I was going to go into low sec and mine, I'd probably just bring like a venture with a warp stabilizer on it or something. But even like my Poshman stuff, it's like, I just take the approach. Maybe, I guess if you were just like, if I was going to go into like Poshman with like a Mackinac or a Retriever, then, it probably would lose that pretty easily. Or like going into low sec with like a Procurer or a Retriever. I think a lot of it comes down to just using the appropriate ship for the activity and for the space you're in to give yourself the best kind of situation and everything. But that's kind of like the soapbox I have on there. But yeah, we're going to finish this run and then we're going to try to switch over and do a little Orca mining. But yeah, let me know in the comments about, your experiences with like safety and, getting ganked and losing ships and stuff. And like, maybe I'll do a video in the future where I'll go over like all of my losses across all my characters and kind of explain the situations on all of them. And a lot of my losses are actually from like war things or from roams or shuttles where I'm just like exploring new regions, stuff like that. But it might be an interesting idea. 7,700,070 trit. We need basically another half of a Mackinac run to finish off what we really needed to accomplish this morning. And for those of you that are curious, each run is about 700,000 trit. I'm getting a 43% reprocess rate in this NPC station. That's implants, simple mining, reprocessing 5, all that good stuff. But probably going to go ahead and do like one more full run here just so we're sitting at like a nice 8.5, so we have a little bit, extra over. Tomorrow's goal is going to be plussing up the pyro and mexilon counts, and then sometime this weekend I've got to go do rare ore sites to do some isogen, some good old isogen. Actually, I might end up just doing Poshvin, to be honest. Poshvin, go for spud main. That'll be probably the most efficient way to fill out the rest of the materials that I need. But go and get this guy kind of set up. And also, I know what you guys are probably thinking. You're like, couldn't you just do Orca drone mining and this industry support mining at the same time? And to answer your question, yes, I could. But more recently, I've favored simplicity over efficiency. I really just don't like spreading my attention too thin, and I think that it also plays a big part in avoiding losses as well. I mean, the more you scale your mining operation, the more screens and tunes you got to worry about, the more ISK you have on field, and it just becomes a little bit more tedious to worry about all that stuff. But also, for me, it's just kind of like a to-do list kind of checkbox. It's like, okay, if I have to mine a certain amount of things to do, for my industry stuff, if I get that done, then whatever I do for the rest of the day in terms of drone mining, which is low yield, or if I want to go mess with PI, I can pretty much give myself the entire rest of the day to do whatever. And efficiency aside, it doesn't matter, because I technically accomplished what I needed to. And I think that's important for manufacturing and industry, is having some sort of discipline, not like a crazy amount that like dictates an insane amount of playtime per day, but I think like having goals and tasks is important, because we'll probably end up actually doing more than just this. We got like 2 days before we can really do the next like thing with industry. So my goal, I was planning on just making sure I had the trit in 2 days from now, which we'll have. So I think like bonus on top of that is if I can have a good stockpile of mexilon and pyro, or pyrite, then that will be even better. So we are ahead. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this guy parked up over here. Park right over top, and then we'll get this kind of situated. A full, like I said, a full load from this Mackinac with my reprocessing and everything is about 700. It depends too. Like if I get a lot of dense and a lot of concentrated Veldspar, then I can get like 800,000 trit per Mackinac run. But I think that we're gonna probably end up seeing a lot of just regular Veldspar on this run because of just where we are in proximity. We could also obviously move closer to where more concentrated and dense is, but I don't really see the point. We'll probably hit up a few more runs today, and maybe get to a solid like 10 million. And also my next run will probably end up being like a blanket of everything. We'll probably jump on one end of the arc and just kind of take everything, scordite included. I really don't like scordite, but it gives us a little bit of trit. It gives us some pyrite. So, and it just kind of there's a certain level of like enjoyment that comes from like getting on one side of the belt and just kind of taking everything and moving all the way around. It kind of like a completionist thing. It just really feels really nice to do that. We have to actually move out of this system into like a 0.9 to get like pyro and stuff, but we'll get all that stuff figured out. All right, the chores have been done. we ended up with like 8.5 and some change million trit after that last Mackinac run. So now it's time to dust off the Orca. Not literally. I do appreciate a max level of dirt on all my ships, but we'll get out to grid here, get everything set up, and just kind of chill for a little bit. All right, now we're all set up with our good old low yield Orca mining, which is still, which interestingly enough, is one of the more popular mining topics on the channel, because I don't even know sure why. I think people enjoy, like me, probably the utility of porpoise and drone and orca mining and stuff like that. The fact that they can kind of, they know that it's low yield, but they can go out there and compress and kind of stay out for a long amount of time and not really have to do a bunch of back and forth. I can't really speak to a lot of people's reasoning for liking to do drone mining, but I know for me, for instance, I enjoy the gameplay aspect of it. And I think if you were trying to like accomplish, like just for us today, for example, like when we've got like a trit goal or whatever for industry, then obviously we're taking up the Mackinac, we're getting that stuff kind of taken care of with higher yield stuff. But then like you also fill up your time, you have to do something that's fun too, outside of any rigorous goals you might have for industry, which I think is probably one of the reasons I still kind of do drone mining. If I was strictly doing like industry and stuff like that, I probably would not even own an orca or a porpoise. But even like yesterday, I didn't record it off camera, but there was a time I was out there in the Mackinac with that industry alt, and I ended up bringing this alt over there with the porpoise just to boost for like an hour, just to get a little bit of higher yield and time on grid and everything, which definitely helps. But even with the additional boosts and stuff like that, when it comes to just only really worrying about one character, one screen, not having to flip back and forth and all that stuff, simplicity, it still is very much more enjoyable just running, single account and stuff like that, which I think is another reason why, drone mining is pretty interesting too, is you have access to a ship that can act like a suitcase, where you can put your skiff and your Mackinac or your crane like I do and kind of move around from system to system. You don't really have to be you're not really restricted to mining in systems that have citadels that offer compression and stuff like that. You kind of just carry everything you need with you, kind of like a little Swiss army knife, so to speak. But now that we've gotten all the industry support mining done for the day, I might do a little bit more of that tonight. But like, I really just kind of want to chill and kind of do more orca mining. I know we did porpoise mining a couple days ago, but I'm probably gonna end up taking the skiff out too. Though every ship that I carry for this character has a very has purpose. It has its own purpose for types of mining that I do. So the Mackinac, obviously, we've been running the same Mackinac hull for like a year. That's my daily driver for the most part. Daily driver, high yield, when I really want to get out there and get quite a bit of stuff accomplished. And then I carry a prospect as well. The prospect is good for rare ore sites. It's good for Poshfin. That's what I use that primarily for. It's quick to travel. And the cover cloak helps with just getting in and out of things. I also used to carry a Venture for low sec stuff, but I really don't do that anymore. So I just got rid of the Venture. Ended up actually given to the industry alt there that you saw earlier in the video, which the Alpha 2 was using for a while, but we're really not using the Venture much anymore. Then I had the skiff. The skiff is one of those ships that's like, the one I have is fitted for pretty high EHP. It's really one of those. It's on those days where it's like, I'm just gonna go out there and mine. I want as much toughness as possible, and mine anyway kind of situation. That's what that ship is kind of for. When it's like, I really don't want to worry too much about spamming D-scan, or I don't want to be overly cautious of local. That's kind of my that's just my lazy miner there. I'll probably end up getting rid of the skiff here, just because I don't use it a whole lot anymore. And then I had the porpoise and the orca both, depending on how I feel and what I want to do, drone mine or one or the other. The orca is really around for moving stuff around easily, so I can throw the barges in there, which is another reason why I'm probably gonna get rid of the skiff, because as it sits right now, I can't fit every ship that I have in the maintenance bay, so I gotta get rid of one of them. I do carry a crane The crane is used for going to GETA and picking up supplies like heavy water, or if I want to move like the Mackinac. I mean, I don't repackage Mackinacs anymore, but back when I used to run rigless on my mining ships, I would repackage them, put them in the crane, and then send them off to another system, put them back together and mine there. And I would always travel with a blockade runner jacket on, essentially. So I've always been carrying a crane around since I trained into it, which is a very good piece of utility. So getting rid of the skiff is going to allow me to fit more into the Orca in terms of like its suitcase capabilities, and then also coming out here and doing like drone mining like I'm doing now. The Porpoise is kind of interchangeable. Either if I'm feeling kind of lazy for the day and I want to like a fast in, fast out for drone mining, then the Porpoise is there. Or just like the other day, fit it for boost, take it 6 jumps or so out, and boost my other alt to like get some stuff done. And that's kind of how that works and everything, which is everything I do, everything ship I have has a purpose, which I think is important. There's no real funsy ship that I kind of carry around, but simplification of my entire operation is one of the biggest focuses for me. Now, going back to what we were talking about earlier about ganks, losing ships, things like that, I really started to kind of think about like my situation, and I really do want you guys' feedback on what you kind of experience, not just in high sec, but also in null sec, low, and what situations kind of are escalated to the point where you lost like a mining ship. But something that occurred to me that might be related to kind of why my experience is seemingly different than a lot of other people out there mining, and what for the longest time, and still pretty much to this day, I don't really mine on the weekends. Now, a lot of that has to do with just our IRL, being busy and things like that. And the logic that I have for that is, if we assume that most players either go to school Monday through Friday or work Monday through Friday, then population would be much higher on the weekends. So the likelihood of there being gank fleets out, the likelihood of losing ships when you're mining in space is greater on the weekend than at any other time. Another aspect of this too is the first corporation that I got into, the first and primarily the largest exposure, I played with other veterans who, in our playtime, was what would be considered off-peak for pretty much every region that we ever played in, whether it be like high sec or null sec or whatever. We would be online around reset, and then we would mine for like 4 hours. And and these guys also didn't really play on the weekends. Our corporation really didn't operate ops or do a lot of mining on the weekends, so it kind of worked out for my situation and everything. So that might actually be a large factor in why I haven't had a whole lot of issues on like the PvP, the ganking kind of side of things, because I'm just busy on the high population days and stuff. Summer is also a difficult time as well. School is out, and a lot of the population goes up even more. And also, generally, I don't play as much, or I'm not in space as much during summertime either, because my kids are out of school. So it's pretty busy around my house for those months. So I think that also kind of contributes to it. So if you use that line of thinking, and you are able to play in off-peak hours, then I think the chances of getting ship losses is drastically decreased. That's not possible for everybody, because like I said, if most people work normal Monday through Friday jobs or go to school, you have a very restricted window when you can play. And if that aligns with 80% of the other player base, then you're probably going to be in the mix of a lot of that kind of stuff as well too. One of the big, you can really kind of like, when I've talked about this in other mining videos and stuff too, about like kind of casing systems, doing like recon and figuring out when peak times are in different regions. And a lot of that has to do with just like putting a character in a station and just kind of like passively kind of watching local over the course of like, I would say probably over the course of like 48 to 72 hours. See whenever there's a big population in local, what time of day it is, when does it drop off. And almost every system I've ever mined in, I've had that information. I've known, well, even if I'm not on the game, I can be like, I can log in right now and it's going to be like this. The normal people who are living in that system are going to be around. It's going to be higher pop. And the other thing you have to realize too is like the more people are in local, it's more attractive for PvPers, because the more people that are in the system, then especially in null, PvP groups and stuff will look for systems that have a lot of people in local, because the likelihood of them getting into an engagement or a fight is greater than going into a system that might have one or two people in it. So even when I was in nullsec operating with a corp and an alliance, a lot of times when I was out mining by myself or just mining in general, most of the other people were not online, so the system inherently wasn't that attractive for people looking for decent engagements in terms of PvP and things like that. I've just kind of gotten in the habit mostly to just do a lot of my mining on off hours, because it's easier for me. You know, kids are taking a nap, you know, it's before noon or whatever, and I get on, I do some mining and stuff like that. The weekend for me, and a lot of the summer months for me, is a lot of progress bar, industry checking, inventory management, PI things. And like for PI, is you can pretty much, you know, PI full time and make a decent amount of ISK, and that's really like low impact too, especially in nullsec. You're out in space for very little time, maybe like once a day you're out for like 5 minutes kind of collecting everything, and then everything else can be kind of managed either from view outside on citadels or where the case may be. But you know, I just figured I'd share that kind of like aspect of my situation, and maybe that I feel like that's probably one of the bigger reasons why I don't have any issues. And like I said earlier, I'm also pretty paranoid, right? If I see a known group come into local and throw out like combat probes, then I'm probably going to come off grid and just take a break, because I can only assume, because I've been on the other side of this equation too, where, you know, how are people like finding, you know, targets? Well, go into systems, see if there's anybody mining. If they are, pop back out, wait 30 minutes, then come in with a full fleet and, you know, go right for where they're at. That's, you know, a pretty standard SOP for that kind of a gang roaming. So whenever I see something like that, is usually time for me to either, you know, take a break or, you know, move systems. And in high sec, it's really kind of more of a habit now than anything. Every time I go, if I ever go back to station and like drop off war, every time I go back out, I try to go to a different belt. And then there's also been situations where, when I'm, you know, kind of more nomadic in behavior, where every time I go out to mine, I'm in a different system, right? You know, you're making yourself a hard target, predictability. You know, people are watching you. Keep that in mind, especially in high sec. People are always watching. They're looking at your info tab in local. They're figuring out who your associates are. If they see you log in and do kind of the same thing every single day, go to the same belt, you know, they start to build a dossier of your activity, and either they will act upon that and get their own PvP content, or they will offer that information to other groups and things like that. So just keep in mind, it's probably just a really good golden rule in EVE, is you're always being watched. And that's probably one of the biggest things I liked about when I was in null, is being off peak. 90% of the time, actually probably more than that, 95% of the time, I would be in our nullsec system by myself. Now, I would do whatever I needed to do. I'd mine, and there would be times where I would be able to mine for like 7 to 10 hours non-stop in space, no problems at all, never see another soul. But then whenever somebody would come into local, I would, you know, usually they would be like Astros or somebody looking for exploration site. But whenever I would see like any sort of combat ship or any sort of like tackle ship come in, that would be pretty much like, okay, well, I would treat that as like, well, I'm made. So I'm either done for the day or I need to move systems, go do something else, you know. And that's kind of the level of caution that I usually use. And I think it's kept me pretty much out of it's kept me from losing a lot of ISK in terms of like ships and stuff like that. So I wanted to kind of just share kind of like that, you know, that thought train and that logic. And maybe if somebody out there is having problems, you know, with ship losses or ganks, maybe what we've discussed or I've talked about in this video, some of these points help or something. But I will be looking for you guys' like feedback and stuff in the comments. Let me know kind of like what everybody else is kind of experiencing too, because it's clearly it's different than what I'm experiencing. So please enlighten me and let me know what's happening out there in the verse. But I think that's going to be it for this episode. I appreciate you guys for watching. I'm going to try to get some stuff accomplished this weekend. Hopefully be able to get a few videos out, maybe at least one. If not, I'll see you guys fresh and early on Monday. But hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. If you want to support the channel, consider becoming a channel member. We got some member exclusive videos like the the solo industry series and things like that you can check out as a member, special Discord roles and all that good stuff. So with that being said, peace out, fly safe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.